I'd still want to distract myself because I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable being a human being.
At 15, Amber Valletta walked into a small Tulsa modeling agency and heard the kind of praise that changes a life. 3 years later, she was in Vogue, walking for Prada and Versace, and living in shared flats with other young models in Europe.
But she has a mix of both, of old world elegance and modern late 20th century attitude.
Cameras caught the glow, the poise, the practiced smile. The world saw glamour, not the hidden strain that lay behind it.
There's a vulnerability there.
The same images that made her famous could not show what was happening when the lights were off. The most polished moments hid the roughest nights. Perfection, on the page, masked a private fight that had started long before fashion entered her life. This is Amber's story. A small-town girl who rose fast, paid a heavy price, and later used that pain to help others. Her addiction started years before the runway. Her recovery would shape who she became as a mother, a working woman, and a voice for people who struggle in silence.
For me, when I realized that I was, about to not just lose my career, but potentially lose my life, and I didn't want to die like that.
In 1991, fashion met its new star. 15-year-old Amber Valletta held a stillness that drew a room to her, and within months, she booked work that many models chase for years. By 17, she had her first Vogue cover. At 18, she moved to Europe and stepped into the center of the high fashion world. Milan, Paris, and London became her commute. The travel barely paused. A week could start in Paris and end in New York, with a shoot in London in between. Time zones blurred into call sheets. Holidays were often just another workday dressed in sequins. The 1990s turned models into global names. They signed large contracts, crossed into music videos and TV, and set trends beyond the runway. Linda Evangelista was quoted for her day rate. Naomi Campbell dominated catwalks. Amber rose into that circle at speed. She shared apartments with fellow risers such as Shalom Harlow. Designer dresses hung like everyday clothes. Photographers lined up. Fashion houses built campaigns around her clean, all-American look that could shape a season. Press coverage framed the story as a seamless ascent. Editors noted her calm on set. Photographers praised her ability to adapt to the lens. To the outside world, she proved that a dream could look effortless. By the mid-1990s, she had 16 Vogue covers. She walked for Prada, Gucci, Versace, and Calvin Klein, and her image sold fragrance and couture. MTV tapped her to co-host House of Style, one of the few models to bridge high fashion and mainstream TV. House of Style brought fashion into living rooms for viewers who never bought Vogue or watched runway clips. Hosting segments and interviewing designers put her name in front of a wider public. The face the industry knew became familiar nationwide. Pictures from those years sell easily. The smile is steady. The body language looks at home. Interviews show a bright young woman who stayed composed in rooms that made others tense. Magazines chased her range. Couture read regal. Denim read close and human. Arty sets made her intriguingly unreadable. Each image reinforced a story. Amber could be glamorous and relatable, polished and reliable, and deliver when it counted. But photographs only fix a surface. They pause for a second and skip the hours between. They cannot show the thoughts behind a smile or the cost of holding it. Behind the glossy pages stood a truth no camera could catch. A young woman fighting a pattern that began in childhood and deepened in a world built on image. The first hits did not come from club bathrooms or after parties. They came from a house in Oklahoma when Amber was 8, testing whatever was nearby. Markers, glue, nail polish, to change how she felt. She later said she felt uncomfortable being a human being and chased relief. By 10, she tried marijuana. That pattern has a name now: self-medication. She could not name the feeling then, only the ease when it lifted. The method shifted, but the aim held. Find a way to feel okay inside her own head.
It's so nice that you say that, but I look back and think, God, I must have been such a little shit.
It was not a phase. It was the start of something that made sense when she learned addiction can run in families. Amber never blamed her parents.
My belief is that addiction is Could be some environmental, but I also believe that it's genetic and I'm predisposed for it.
But drugs were present around the family, and early exposure set the stage for a deeper problem. Work soon carried her into rooms that magnified what was already there. In some circles, cocaine was as common as coffee. For most, it was the scene. For Amber, it was a trap that fit her wiring. She said she found cocaine and alcohol and was good to go, turning what might be occasional for others into a daily tool to cross the gap between a shy girl and the fluent person the fashion world expected. The system didn't just allow it, it enabled it. Drugs and alcohol were widely available and were handed to her. In a trade built on polish, few asked why a teenager used chemicals to get through. She called herself a socially inept kid thrown into a very sophisticated world. Substances turned her fear into a false composure, allowing her to keep pace.
That I was not someone who could handle it. I was not someone who went, home after the party was over. I continued to take the party further.
That boost came with a bill. The bridge became a crutch. Anxiety grew sharper when sober, and the cycle tightened. The schedule helped her hide it. Odd hours most nights, non-stop travel, chaos that could be blamed on work, not on the bottle or the bag. She could show up altered and still hit the frame. And she did. Work kept coming steadily, and the split between private pain and public output convinced her it was under control. The schedule helped her hide it. Shoots ran at odd hours. Travel never stopped. Chaos could be blamed on work, not on the bottle or the bag. She could show up altered and still nail the frame when the camera clicked. And she did. Covers kept coming. Designers kept booking her. The split between private pain and public output led her to believe the problem was under control. In her early 20s, Amber learned to function while impaired. She could arrive at $1 million shoot hungover or high, hit every mark, and leave with praise. Long days, erratic nights, and blurred lines between work and play were normal. Deals formed where the party never stopped. To outsiders, her intake looked like the price of entry. To her, it sat at the center of life. She has said she showed up high for $1 million photo shoot. The line shows both the depth of the habit and the blind spot of the system around her. Teams focused on light, clothes, and frame. No one asked what held her together between takes. Had editors and brands known, they likely would have cut ties. Models were expected to be naturally confident and in control, and admitting dependency could end a career. That fear kept her performing for a part of the day and night. Her circle thinned, friends pulled back. Nobody really came out to me directly about my substance abuse except my mom. Most were over it. Loneliness fueled the habit, which in turn fueled more loss. Nights stretched longer, and mornings arrived empty. Calls went unanswered, messages left unread. Her mother confronted her, but she denied it. At 20, she would risk job, family, and health for the next high. The danger was not abstract. She worked major campaigns under the influence, risking contracts. In that state, she didn't care. The drug took the wheel. Yet the work looked flawless. Photos showed no chaos. The smile read calm. The body language sure, and each success helped her argue there was no problem. Culture made the lie easy. Champagne as business, after parties as networking, all-nighters as proof of commitment. So she told herself she was only keeping pace. But addiction has its own math. While her resume grew, her inner life began to fall apart. The same substances that calmed her at night left her with shame and jitters by day. The two lives pulled in opposite directions, and holding both at once took more than she had. Agencies prized reliability, deliver on time and on brief, and the calendar filled, masking risk. As long as the work looked perfect, the struggle stayed unseen and unchecked. The end did not look dramatic. It looked tired. At 25, after years of balancing fame and a deepening habit, she crashed. A long binge erased sleep, food, and any normal rhythm. In Manhattan, she landed at St. Vincent's Hospital. She arrived alone and left alone the next day. I hadn't slept in a while, and I ended up going to St. Vincent's alone and walking home alone after they released me the next day, she said. That is not a good feeling, she added. Fame did not protect her from that empty walk. Rock bottom became a floor. In that room and on that sidewalk, the choice was clear. Keep going and die, or stop and live. I got sober at 25 because I didn't want to die. It wasn't willpower. It was survival. Denial lost its grip. She could not point to covers to prove control or promise a clean break after one more party. She had to ask for help. In 1999, at the height of her fame, she entered recovery quietly. No press, no statement. Stopping was only the start. Early recovery was simple by design. Sleep, meetings, meals, and movement set a routine. She kept her world small, avoided people and places that pulled her back, and learned to sit through urges without acting. She relearned how to live in her own skin without help from a bottle or a line. Therapy helped trace the roots. 12-step rooms gave peers. Spiritual practice taught her to sit with hard feelings. Humility became a daily act. I had to be willing to lift the veil off the shame and say, "I'm an addict. I can't do this alone. Can you help me?" For someone paid to project ease, asking for help was a new muscle. Recovery demanded vigilance. Years later, she still called the disease shape-shifting and said she had to keep turning inward and doing the work. By 2000, she kept her career standing while rebuilding her life. The same discipline that once hid the habit now served the work of staying well. Around a year into sobriety, Amber gave birth to her son, Auden. She was 26. Motherhood made her reason to stay clean, immediate, and non-negotiable. The goal shifted from career to a child who needed steady care. At the same time, she moved into acting. Hollywood offered a new lane and some distance from the fashion culture that had fed her addiction. In Los Angeles, she built new habits and circles, with work not tied to late nights. Her first major film credit came in 2000 with What Lies Beneath alongside Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer. In 2005, she appeared in Hitch with Will Smith and Eva Mendes. Each project proved sobriety widened her path. The scene still carried risk. Industry events overflowed with alcohol. Premieres and award nights were built around the social flow she had once relied on. She handled it with tools from recovery. She built absolute confidence in skill, not chemicals. People may have noticed she did not drink, but the choice stayed private. The press framed her as a model who expanded into film. She was called an inspiration for balancing roles: model, actress, activist, mother. The public saw outcomes, not the quiet fight that kept those outcomes possible. She kept recovery off the record for years. In the 2000s, candid talk about addiction could cost jobs in fashion and film. She told only those who needed to know: caregivers, close friends, a small circle. Silence had a weight. Recovery thrives on an open community, yet public meetings risk exposure. She avoided recovery events and helped in quieter ways. She mentored one-on-one. She showed up consistently. Service anchored her sobriety, giving the past new meaning. "I had to go out and help other people with addiction," she said. Making pain useful kept her steady. Still, living with the fear of exposure took energy. For more than 15 years, she worried a story could undo hard-won stability, work, custody, and reputation. Motherhood added shape to her days. Routines set guardrails where nights once dissolved, and that structure supported sobriety as she built a new lane. By 2014, Amber was 40 and had over 15 years of sobriety. She decided to speak. "It's time to lift the veil," she said. "I've guarded it so privately. This is really who Amber Valletta is." She chose Mind Body Green's Revitalize conference in July 2014. No splashy TV special, no tabloid deal. A room where health and healing were the point. She spoke plainly. "I'm coming out to you today as an addict. I suffer from a disease called addiction. I've had it for as long as I can remember." She traced a line. Age 8 experimenting. High by 10 on marijuana in family circles. Then fashion years when cocaine and alcohol were everywhere. At 20, she was at the top of my game, yet ready to throw it away for the drug. She did not spare herself, drunk and stoned at work, hitting a wall and getting sober at 25 because I didn't want to die. She apologized to her mother before sharing that she sniffed household chemicals as a child, to get out of myself. Her goal was service, not spin. My hope is that someone will hear something that will help them and get them out of the shadows and darkness of addiction and bring them into the light. She challenged stigma. I believe that addiction is still considered something shameful and that if you had the willpower, you could fix it. And that's just not true.
It somehow feels uncomfortable. There's a vulnerability there.
Coverage was fast and respectful. Headlines hailed it as brave and noted its early start. ABC News stressed an early start, and News called it a drug and alcohol shocker. Fashion outlets praised courage, not scandal. It didn't harm her standing. It widened it. She felt relief. No more careful dodges in interviews. I didn't have a problem when I was out using, so why be ashamed of being clean and saying, I have a disease I can't control? She kept speaking. Grit won't stop addiction. You can't just buck up and not drink that beer or do drugs. It doesn't allow you to stop on sheer willpower. The public met a fuller person, a worker, a mother, and an advocate who used her past to push for change. With the secret gone, Amber entered her most purposeful phase. Modeling continued on new terms. Through the 2010s and into the 2020s, she fronted campaigns for Loewe, Saint Laurent, and Stella McCartney. It showed how honesty can sustain a career. Her focus widened to the health of the planet and the people who make clothes. Early climate talks by Al Gore led her to environmental science classes at NYU in the mid-2000s. She saw how fashion can foul water, drive carbon, and exploit workers.
Like, most people don't know that there's an issue in the fashion and textile industry.
In 2013, she launched Master and Muse with Ukes to support ethical, eco-minded brands. It closed in 2016, but marked a new public role. She spoke at the Copenhagen Fashion Summit, joined boards like Nest to back artisan communities, became Vogue's first contributing sustainability editor, and served as Karl Lagerfeld's sustainability ambassador. Her activism moved into the street. In 2019 and 2020, she joined Jane Fonda's Fire Drill Fridays in Washington, D.C., and was arrested multiple times during civil disobedience. This is the most important crisis we're facing. I will risk public opinion, being in jail. In 2021, the Fashion Institute of Technology named her Sustainability Ambassador. She helps shape bio-design and ethical fashion programs and speaks with students. All the while, she stayed active in recovery circles. In 2020, she marked 20 years sober with gratitude and service, recalled lows, like arriving high to say goodbye to a dying relative, to show what addiction can do, counseled young models and actors, and shared the tools that helped her: daily work, honest support, and patience with hard days. The contrast with the 1990s cover girl stands. Then she sold the surface. Now she will face arrest and take a call from someone in crisis. Don't be afraid to be strong and bold. Care less about what people think, she says. Her aim is honesty, not perfection. I want to be the person that I aspire to be. I don't want to just talk it, I want to live it. She allows hard feelings, uses the tools she earned the hard way, and tries to move as gently as I can. The anxious teen who felt uneasy being human learned to be at home in her own life. Her sustainability push initially focused on basics: cleaner materials, safer dyeing, and fairer pay. She used her access to hold decision-makers to a higher bar without turning advocacy into scolding. Amber Valletta's story shows how a public image can hide a private storm. Magazines captured a look, not a life. While the world saw ease, she was fighting a disease. Those images, which many still remember from store shelves and living rooms worldwide, carry more weight now. It also shows what truth can do. The secret she feared would end her career became the base for her most meaningful work. The shame of those hidden years turned into fuel for service. Today, the woman who once arrived high to a major shoot will show up at a climate hearing or meet someone who needs help staying sober. The person who once felt out of place in her own skin now helps others find their footing. Her legacy is more than photographs. It lives in the people she has helped through her recovery work and in the pressure she puts on the fashion industry to clean up its act. It is hope offered without drama. You can change your life and keep your craft. By lifting the veil on her past, she lit a path for others to step out of the dark. Pain became purpose. Silence became a voice that speaks plainly and helps. The most lasting change did not happen in front of a lens. It happened in the choice to live honestly, one day at a time,